Hi, and welcome to another episode of I fucking lost again this week, and I swear to God I'm gonna punch you guys in the twats.
In
5D.
So is that what we're going to open with? We're just going to lead with that and get it out of the way for you?
No, I'm gonna leave it a mystery, and the listeners are gonna have to guess why there will be twat punches coming.
They know why you're a salty bitch.
Well, no, they know that I am a salty bitch. I'm not sure that they know why in particular this time.
Because of FML.
They know why.
Thanks for that. Actually, there is one thing I want to open up with, which also makes me kind of salty, but not just me and a bunch of fans of Blizzard. So,
yeah, they're pissing people. Well, but is it Blizzard or is it Activision at this point? Who knows? The line is blurred.
who knows? So here's the thing. Were any of you guys watching any of the BlizzCon announcements?
No,
I wasn't following it.
So I was looking at the announcements. I wasn't watching the live stream.
Right.
However, I get pinged and it's like, hey, did you hear about this thing? And that thing was Diablo Immortal or Immortals. I think it's just Immortal. Yes, it's just Immortal.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, what is this thing? And, I'm thinking like, oh, they're going to do another game or it's another expansion. I kind of started giving up on them doing another game because now that they started to do seasons, it's more of a platform and they can just keep adding content like WoW,
That's not really how the seasons work.
No, I know, but like with something that's so repeatable and that they keep people hooked in by doing the seasons, I didn't expect them to just scrap a whole new thing and do a new game.
If you're following Blizzard a little bit, I have a website that I just get a lot of nerd news from who seems to follow Blizzard pretty heavily. They've been making regular job posts, and in the job posts specifically saying for Diablo. So people have known that, and even after what you're going to talk about, they have said that there is other Diablo stuff in the works.
But
so we've known that they're doing Diablo related stuff.
Okay.
True. The only interesting part though is Diablo related. Again, to me, didn't actually mean a new Diablo game. I didn't.
So I mean, you were stuck in the Kingdom Hearts thing. We're like,
Yeah.
we know 3 will happen eventually, but until then, here's 45 games of just bullshit that make the story more.
And I honestly just thought it was going to be more expansions.
Sure.
But anyways, so they actually did announce a whole brand new game, but
They
it
did.
was not what anybody wanted.
And it was not well received at the convention either.
No, so
First-person Diablo game?
no. Let's
Not
start.
quite that bad.
Let's start.
That's called Doom. Isn't that just
Yeah.
called Doom?
I thought it was
Yeah,
going to be
pretty
Skyrim.
much. No. Okay, so let's say what it is. It is a mobile game.
Oh.
And it's
Yeah.
not Diablo ported to your cell phone, because I could see the allure to that if they were gonna, I know we mentioned Skyrim, but the Bethesda plan of release it and then 8 years later keep releasing it, just like on different
honestly, your phone
platforms.
could probably run Diablo 1 pretty well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the game wouldn't be any more broken and
A
shitty
lot
than
of
it was when it
people were
released.
really hoping for a Diablo 2 HD remake or even a
Great.
Diablo 1 HD remake.
Also be great.
Yeah, but when they announced mobile, like the whole room, if you watch the clip, the whole room just goes quiet. No one's really asking anything. No one's really saying anything, and they start talking about it. Here's where I think they went wrong, and I will tell you exactly about the controversy. So they left this announcement to be the final thing they announced during the keynote, which is generally reserved for their flagship game or flagship expansion or their big news. And
So a small addition to that.
sure.
From what I read in a couple of Reddit posts. So take the source with a grain of salt, of course. But from what I read, apparently in the months leading up to this, at first they were hyping the fuck out of it. New announcement, final thing, big thing, game coming, be excited. And then apparently like a month before the convention, they started going like, hey, stay really whelmed. Like, this isn't going to be an announcement that blows anybody away. Just stay chill. So they already kind of started this backpedal of like, kind of before
I wonder if they
this
were
big announcement.
I wonder if there were play tests and people were coming back with their feedback, and that's why they started backpedaling.
So I cut you off. Continue.
No, it's okay.
Flagship, the headliner. The headliner gets
So
there.
they announced it, and everyone's quiet, and they're like, we'll be back up on stage in a couple of minutes, and we'll talk more about it. So they, that happens. They do that, and then the Q&A happens, and I don't know in what order. Let's not talk about the sarcastic asshole that I get why he went there, but I don't fully back his whole thing. Now here's the question. The question is posed: is there any plan in the future of bringing this game to PC? Mind you, he didn't say anything bad, anything derogatory about this game, even though people so far had not been excited after the initial announcement. And the response from the dev was, at this time, there is no plan to bringing it. And then the room, you hear one guy start, boo, and then the room explodes in boos. They just start booing the dev. And at this moment, the dev can either take it for what it is, smile and nod, maybe try to explain why the game is good or what some cool features about the game that he enjoys, but he doesn't. The dev, and not just him, at least one of the other people on stage with him replied with, "What, you guys don't have mobile phones?" And it's
the wrong response.
The worst response, because look, you already look like you're a little out of touch with your fans because they've been asking for X, Y, and Z. And also there's a bunch of, if you scour the forums, there's a bunch of bugs and a bunch of fixes that people have been asking for in just normal Diablo, right? Diablo 3,
yeah,
which is normal Diablo now. But and none of that was addressed. Sorry, go ahead.
What I was seeing a lot on the consumer end for my job and everything is that they're trying to market phones and shit as mobile gaming devices. So if you're a gamer, this phone's where you. And so a lot of the companies have been getting in on this kind of like, I'll call it for what it is, cash grab, in order to kind of like try to get that market because it's still a relatively big and new market. Whereas,
a thing I saw was saying Blizzard apparently made about $4 million off just mobile games through the Hearthstone microtransactions, and I think they have a Heroes of the Storm something. So they are making money in the mobile market, and here's a key piece of this that I think
huge speculation, which is what I think.
No, not the speculation part. So this part that I'm going to say is legit. So they are working with a Chinese developer who has helped them develop a few of their other mobile games. So logistically, it made sense if you already have a partnership with a mobile game company. You're already making money on mobile games, and Diablo hasn't hit that yet. And because it's a Chinese developer they're working with, mobile games and microtransactions in China, like, they don't have the same problem that we have here. Where in the US, you have a huge pushback and backlash against mobile games and microtransactions. China has actually adopted it pretty heavily, and they're kind of fans of it. You can play for free and grind, which a lot of them do, or you can just throw some cash at it and skip shit, which a lot of them do. Mobile games and microtransactions in China are huge. Yeah, I just think that maybe you do a bigger push for this in China, and here you kind of do a more quiet, casual, like, hey, here's a thing we're releasing.
Well,
making it the flagship and trying to put hype around something that you know that pretty traditionally American audiences are not huge on, it's a huge misstep.
That, and also the company that they're working with, they're talking about how it's a reskin of one of their games.
So that claim was made.
I've seen
the name of it. It's like Light something.
Something Eternals or Battle
Champions.
Anyways, sorry, Bonsai can look it up. But here's I've seen them side by side. And the UI looks very identical. Some of the moves are very identical. Here's what actually worries me. And
Crusaders of the Light. So if you want to check it out for yourself, same dev, the same Chinese developer makes a game called Crusaders of Light. And from what people online are saying, this looks to be just a Diablo-themed reskin of Crusaders of Light.
Kind of what's telling is there was an interview after the fact with some of the developers of Diablo Immortal, and they were asked just outright, hey, some folks are saying this is a reskin, and they didn't outright say no.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, there was and I'm paraphrasing, right? I'm not quoting directly, but it was, well, they have their artists, we have our artists, and we kind of work together.
And the one thing I know, me and Eduardo were talking about this earlier, the one thing that I noticed and I brought up first was in the direct quote, because what we read was not a paraphrase, it was a direct quote.
Yep.
In the direct quote, I couldn't help but notice they never mentioned a development team. They said they have artists, we have artists, they got writers, we got writers, but nobody said like, no, man, the development team worked really hard. They purely mentioned things that, to me, make it sound like a reskin.
Yeah, so all in all, let's summarize it. It's a game that, at least in the American market, nobody wanted. It's on a platform that a lot of hardcore gamers, which it's been, what, 3-4 years at least since that game came out? If not, it's probably like 6.
6?
Yeah, so it's mostly just your hardcore player base that's still playing it, right? So
Diablo 3 came out in 2012.
Yeah.
May of 2012.
Wow. So it's been a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And so your hardcore player base isn't going to want this kind of game because it's just not what they enjoy.
Right.
So you've completely missed the mark on your target audience. Or maybe they're not your target audience. Perfect. You announce it in the flagship position, and when you get pushback, like, you give a snarky, maybe the dude just got caught up in the
cheeky.
Yeah, like, the dude maybe just got caught up in the moment. Maybe he wasn't ready. Like, maybe he was the fall guy. It really reminded me of, do you remember Fun with Dick and Jane?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
They promote him to be the CFO, like, minutes before the company tanks and the executive staff just leave on a helicopter. Like, yeah. That moment, like, at one point, he just sits there and he goes, when questions are being asked. There was that one, and I want to mention it because everyone's talking about red shirt guy. There was this big, well, by big I mean Reddit movement to change all your armor in Diablo to a red shader to really get behind that red guy. He came up, and the question that he asked, he's like, is this an out of season April Fool's joke?
Wow.
And the guy up there was like, no, this is a complete and immersive brand new Diablo experience, like trying to bring it back. But at that point they had lost the audience. Yeah, that guy was snarky, and I'm like, okay, so someone could have been asking a legitimate question. You took that from him, and it really like got back to those times at Comic-Con where we got a chance to go, and the dudes just got up and asked the worst fucking questions.
But I'm sorry, at that, so did he ask that question before or after they pulled the "Do you guys not have phones"?
I believe it was after.
I'm sorry, yeah, no, at that point, it's already over. Ask whatever,
well,
be a jackass.
Before that, like, the fucking flagship is this mobile game that nobody wants.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get a good response or a good question out of it.
You would have gotten a better response out of a Hearthstone update.
That didn't even react negatively. He just asked a simple question, right? That's the good question that came out of it.
Right?
Yeah, look, that was a legitimate question where it's like, okay, we don't really care about mobile, but this is a new Diablo game. Are you ever going to bring it to PC? And honestly, that was my question too. I was like, oh, cool. It's a new game. Am I going to be able to play it on PC? And it was like, no plans at this time. And then here's the tricky part, because I know you mentioned it earlier. That's when they started talking about, and not on stage, but like, independent interviews and just kind of statements after the fact. That's when they started talking about other Diablo projects that are in the works.
Right.
So is it a response to the backlash? Were they already having it go on at the same time? I just don't buy it anymore, right? It just seems like oh no, don't worry guys, we're totally working on this other thing.
The dragons are coming, guys. Don't worry, the dragons are coming.
But yeah, anyways, I thought that was kind of a shit show, and I mean, the sad part is people are starting to lose faith. Like the latest WoW expansion, people are really pissed off about certain things, and
I heard they were finally bringing vanilla back. You were going to have the option to play vanilla WoW now.
So they are bringing that back, but the expansion Fight for Azeroth or something apparently didn't go as well as people thought it was going to, or at least
I couldn't.
That game's like 20 years old.
Say that again, Klops.
I said I couldn't even get to in-game content or anything. I really, I tried to play WoW because all my other friends are like, let's play WoW, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll give it another shot. I haven't played it in forever and didn't have the best experience when I played it back in Burning Crusade, and nope, Game puts me to sleep. It doesn't have any nostalgia for me, so there's no excitement. I couldn't get into the storyline. It just was not for me. But from what I was hearing, like these guys are really enjoying like all the different dungeons and stuff, because there's now different levels of dungeons and there's different like puzzle tiers and stuff. Like it's not just like you go into a dungeon and you rate it. You go into this dungeon, you rate it, and you get a keystone, which unlocks the next part of the dungeon that you can do for a week. Like you could try for a week, but if you don't get the puzzle key for the next part, you're kind of screwed. So you got to find another person that has that, so you can keep going.
No, I understand, because they have a similar system right now in Destiny 2, actually.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. It sounds like grind some more.
It's just grinding.
And to be fair, like the end game of Diablo 3 is a lot like that as well. But at least for Diablo 3, I feel like it's a little bit more dynamic. It just, I don't know. I've played WoW 3 times. And I can honestly say that I enjoy, in an MMO setting, I enjoy Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah,
much
actually,
better.
I've been playing a little bit of that recently, because I was like, I'm going to try it out again.
If we're talking MMOs. So anyways, I just wanted to talk about...
DCU, oh.
Actually, DCU was a lot of fun, but again, their in-game content was a little weak.
Still into it.
Fair enough. So, right before the cast here, I was preparing my notes about a show. Wow, did you hear us say?
Wait,
Notes.
you're just going to skip over the other thing that I was going to do? We're just not going to talk about Diablo 3?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Do your thing. I'm so excited about...
So speaking of Diablo 3, Bonsai here has a port for us.
No, there's a funny thing that I discovered, and I'm tickled about it, but go on.
Fuck your funny thing. Nobody cares about you. It's me time.
Yep.
It's me time. No, I played a port of a game. It was good.
It was Diablo 3.
No, so yeah, I got Diablo 3 for the Switch. So my wife recently got me a Switch for my birthday, which is cool. But you know, she got me Mario Kart to go with it, which is great. And I'm actually really just liking the Switch. The one feature that I thought I was gonna like. Oh, she's watching TV. I'll just go pick up the Switch and play it on the couch. Yeah. But one of my big concerns was there going to be this hard line between a game I can sit there and play on the small screen on the couch and a game I can play on the TV. You know what I mean? Like, but you can see where that fear would come from. There are a lot of consoles where I look at a game and I'm like, there's no way I could play that on my phone or on a handheld. Like, it just won't work. And not that I've played a butt ton of games on the Switch, but so far everything I've played, I have no problem picking up and playing on the couch instead. Like, Mario Kart worked great on the couch. I'm actually really liking it be up close to my face.
I'm actually the opposite, yeah.
So Diablo was another one where I was like, I'm not too sure how well this is going to work playing it on the TV versus the couch. The first day I got it, I played it on the TV, like, all day Saturday and Sunday. I pretty much just played Diablo. And then finally Sunday night, she was like, okay, I'm sick of watching you fucking play Diablo. I'm going to watch TV now. So I picked it up, pulled it handheld. Little to no difference. Little difference. I'm not going to say no difference.
It does better.
Feel a little different, smaller.
I feel that really the point of it is like, where it feels really different for me is that the controller itself, when you're having it in the handheld position, isn't as comfortable as it could be when you're having like the actual little controller with the Joy-Cons on it.
But you're a big guy and I'm a wee little guy, so
I mean, that's true.
Fits me, like, it's like this big on me, dude. That thing fits great for me.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, mine is just beep.
Yeah, you're a bit. When I first played Mario Kart with you, we played Mario Kart split screen, and watching big ass fucking Klops hold this little tiny Joy-Con sideways, I was like, if he sneezes wrong, he's gonna swallow that thing. It's gone forever. It's fucking so tiny in his hand. But no, I will say, as far as being a faithful port that looks and plays well, I mean, it does. I'm playing Necromancer for the first time because I never got the Necromancer expansion on the PC. So I'm doing Necromancer for the first time. I'm playing through the story mode again because I was like, it's been probably been like 4 years since I sat down and played the storyline on Diablo 3. So I'm playing through it again, and I mean, honestly, nothing is lost. If there is one huge glaring flaw, it's a minimal flaw, but it's just grating enough to just work itself to the top of the list. If you have a big list of items, like, say, your flag customizations, which there are 9,000 goddamn items for, there's no fast scroll. Like, you can't hold trigger to, like, shoot to the bottom. It's not even that fast. It's tick, 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 tick. It's obnoxious, but that's really easily fixed with a patch. Put in a fast scroll button, it'll work real smooth.
It still sounds better than the Dark Souls port. I've been kind of playing that a little bit, and it's a little bit like graphically less intense. They kind of dumb that down, and they mess with some of the sounds.
The cutscenes are pulled back a little bit.
Okay, I'm confused. Why would you put a very difficult game on a device you can easily snap?
Well, because my thing was I was just going to be an asshole and PvP the whole time on my Nintendo Switch and not even worry about storyline and doing crazy builds I've done on PC. But then they introduced their online system where you have to pay like $20 a year, and I'm like, no.
I'm actually probably going to pay the $20 a year.
Like, no.
I will pay that before I pay PlayStation or Xbox for like $20 a month.
As much as I love Dark Souls,
cost, but yeah.
I'm not going to pay for an online service because I play my PC way too much, and I play my consoles way too little.
See, so the Switch I actually am playing more, and you get the added benefit of all the retro games they install. My buddy has like 8 or 9 free retro games he got.
When I had my Switch before it got stolen. Anyways, I was playing it every single day. I just bust that out on the commute to work.
Well, Klopps's commute is like a 5-minute walk, so...
Yeah, it's like a 10-minute drive, and then when it's not, it's in the city, and I just bring my iPad, and I put all my notes and shit that I'm going to do.
Yeah, I would never bring my Switch on the light rail with me, but different strokes.
Well, that's fair. I wouldn't take it on, like, BART, because it's crazy. But, no, so, honest to God, I preferred having the Switch right here than putting it on the TV.
Oh yeah, no, I totally liked it more in a handheld position than on the TV.
Yeah, there's like Breath of the Wild,
and just set it like on the little table next to me
with a little kickstand on it.
Yeah, I'd play like that like more often than I would play it on my big TV.
And see, for me, like the biggest issue I was playing Breath of the Wild on the big TV. There was something wrong. You could totally tell where this tiny little tablet was doing well, but it was chugging at the parts where, when you start getting the kind of floods of enemies and stuff. That's when it started to struggle a little bit. But handheld, not a problem.
Just get to the brightness down a little bit.
So
brightness directly affects the overall performance of the Switch. So if you turn that down, it won't chug as much.
My TV does it's the whole OLED true black stuff. So when I was doing the Diablo setup, it's like, hey, put the thing to where you can barely see Diablo on there.
No, get the fuck out of here.
I usually go a little bit brighter than that on most of my devices. Literally, with how dark my TV does blacks, there were only 2 ticks where I could see Diablo at all. I literally could barely see, could see, and that was the last 2 little ticks.
I think you need to turn up the brightness on your TV.
No, I like it like that. It's great. It's true black. It does not light if something is supposed to be black. It's wonderful. But when I pulled it into handheld mode, I was like, too bright. And I have to turn it right back down. So it's just. But no, honestly, it's a really true port. It's a really fun port. I think it works really well. And I will say I haven't used it yet, but I'm totally going to fanboy out and run around in Ganondorf armor for a long time. I don't care if there's 90 other people online with Ganondorf armor. We're all rocking it.
It is Monday right now. Wednesday is when my Diablo edition Switch shows up. My wife got it for me as early Christmas present because my Switch got stolen. So I'm getting it with the case and with that fucking game, and I can't wait to run online like an asshole. Well, not even online.
I
just
don't pay for the Nintendo Online yet, though, so you might.
Fun side note for the Nintendo Switch: they came out with the Super Smash Brothers bundle, or it's coming out, and it has the game Super Smash Brothers, but it does not activate or can work until December. It's going on sale this month.
Sometimes they do that, but I'm cool. I've got this. All right. Let's talk about this other thing. So, both Bonsai and I believe Cops might have caught an episode, we've been watching The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix. So, before I even get into that, I was getting my notes together to talk about this, and I found a website, and I'm okay with talking about the website, called movieguide.org, and this is the title: 3 things to know about the satanic Netflix series Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And I was tickled
Why do you gotta
so
bring up
much.
things that you just know are gonna make me angry?
I was tickled so much because I didn't even have to go into it. I was like, this is like somebody's mom or some sort of religious organization of sorts or something like that. Because again, you know, I grew up in the church, so I just my Jesus sense was tingling. Yeah, sure enough, dude. You look at this and it talks about family values, and it's not the Sabrina you remember. I'm not going to read you the article or anything like that. I just wanted to mention it. But, like, it says, this is not the Sabrina you remember. To the point where at one point it insinuates that Sabrina was bad enough, but at least it was comedy.
Oh, I like the original Sabrina.
No, I know, but it was bad enough because of witchcraft. Anyways.
So before we do a full review, let me at least say this much. I have Satanist friends.
Hi.
I know many Satanists.
Hi.
I know a lot about, and there is more than one Satanist church, just like there's more than one Christian church.
It's more than one satanic church, but yeah.
Right. So there's not just like the Church of Satan. There is more than that. Just like there's Catholic and Christian and Episcopalian and Southern Baptist. There are flavors or whatever you want to call it.
You have Leviathan Satanism, theistic Satanism, Luciferianism. There's all kinds of Satanism.
Right.
Come bring your kids. It's good. It's a good time.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch is using a blend of different ones, but mostly writing on like old world notion of Satanism, and is not at all reflective of what there are small things. There are little bits of true Leviathan Satanism in there that I was like, oh wow, it's really cool that they mention this part that's true. But then there's all this stuff about goat sacrifice, which really almost no Church of Satan does anymore. That's like really angry high school kids on farms.
So
that's
there's
not
a difference
actually the
between
Church of Satan.
Satanism and devil worship, and that's the
correct.
line that Bonsai is talking about.
Yeah,
correct.
Devil worship was like the guy that was the Night Stalker that was sacrificing people to Satan. That's
no.
devil worship. Whereas the actual Satanists don't do that.
So
they also don't
Black
even
masses,
believe in the devil. It's an ideal.
Yes, they use black masses as a way to remove the indoctrination of Zed Church that they talk about all the time.
But,
and
just having said that, I just want to make sure that a line is drawn, that this is not like a lot of movies and a lot of shows. You know, if they're going to do a movie about heroin addicts, they go and they meet heroin addicts. This is not like a heavily researched, this is supposed to be about Satanism.
No.
It's a pulp comic. Literally, this is a pulp comic made by Archie Comics. Archie Comics owns the Sabrina rights and writes the Chilling Tales of Sabrina. It is a take, it is a version, this is not legitimate Satanism, and if you're using this as a basis for legitimate Satanism, you're kidding yourself.
Well, and
I just want that to be out of the way before review.
But here's the thing. A lot of people preempted me watching this show when they were talking about it. They preempted it with, oh, this is a scary take on this. And this is
I wouldn't even call it that.
Yeah, this is a horror take on this. And by we, I mean me and my wife started watching this the night of Halloween, and if my wife can watch this, it's not scary, first off.
Right. It's about as horror as True Blood is. There are monsters, and they do monster things, but mostly it's
you know
drama.
what?
Well, I
This
only
is
got
actually
the first episode.
Kind of a dark comedy.
And there is dark comedy, but there does have that horror elements in it. It did have blood in the first episode, and I was like, that's rad.
But I don't consider that horror.
Yeah, but that's the fine line of horror that you're talking about, right? Like, I like Lovecraftian existential fucking horror, right? You know,
there are degrees of horror.
Not I'm the silent killer butchering everybody horror.
Right.
You know, there's different levels.
And I think I'm a little further than I'm definitely further than Klops. I think I'm still a little bit further than you, Eduardo. There is some straight up, like, there's like a whole possession bit where they're like, you know, he's possessed in dreams.
I'm past that episode.
There's some straight up like throat slitting that happens and some folks getting murdered. Like there are even just the mines, like Harvey seeing the devil in the mines, that has a very strong, there are horror aspects to it, but largely it's a drama series.
Yeah, well, no, actually I find it to be a dark comedy. It's so on the
That's
nose.
just because you're a sick person.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Talk
just
about what bugs me about this series, though.
it's on the nose. It's so
Okay.
on the fucking nose.
Can I talk about this?
Sure.
What fucking timeline is this in? Is it 80s?
Hold on.
Is
Hold
it
on.
2000s? Is it
Hold
the
on.
60s? Because I fucking don't know.
I can actually explain. I don't know that this is canon, but this seems to be how they run things because it's Archie comics and it's Riverdale related. Because this is a companion show to Riverdale, same producers, just a different
And
network.
they actually mentioned Riverdale in the show a few
Right.
times.
Riverdale is kind of like Gotham, where you're never quite sure if it's modern or the 1950s. Like, it's
True.
sort of stuck in this transient spot between that. Or, sorry, 1920s. It's like, it's mobsters, see? Yeah. But it's also like cell phones. Riverdale is stuck between the 50s and modern time. So it's still like the cool guy jock football town and greasers and Hickadoola or whatever the fuck. But it's also just done in a modern setting. It's sort of transiently stuck between these two ideals.
I didn't get that at all. Like a lot of the tech.
Oh,
is
it's not a
60s,
thing that's
sure.
overt.
But
I'm
then,
just
like you
talking
have like
knowing Archie
dudes from like
comics.
the 80s, like fucking
Right.
jocks.
Well, and then like an old
randomly there's a
mining
laptop.
town. Yeah,
Yeah.
And then randomly there's a cell phone.
it's transiently sort of stuck between ages.
It
That's
bugs
the-
the
that's-
fuck out of me.
That's
Why?
all Archie comics. That's all of it.
Why does it
Like-
bug you though?
It just I don't know. It just bugs the fuck out of me. It's like, what?
That's not
Like, the
even
whole
the
time-
thing I'm looking at.
Like there's other stuff that bugs me, but this is one of the big things that bugged me about it. I was like, what the fuck? Where the
Yeah,
fuck am I?
It's sort of everywhere and nowhere all at the same time, which doesn't bother me, but it is kind of jarring, especially if you don't I don't read Archie comics, but I'm familiar enough with what goes on to kind of know how that world building works.
Yeah, see, I don't read the comics. I didn't know anything about it.
And well, to be fair, Archie stopped giving a shit years ago when they did zombies invading Riverdale and killed Jughead. Then Predator invaded Riverdale and killed everyone. And then actually Archie Comics officially ended before being rebooted with two separate timelines, one in which Archie ends up with Betty and one in which Archie ends up with Veronica. And in both timelines, Archie is shot and killed. That is literally how
Yeah, I
Archie
do
Comics
recall
ends, with
that.
Archie being shot and killed, and then they reboot the whole Archie series.
Yeah,
So
I
it's-
do recall that.
The other
Its
thing that
tone
bugs
is
me
all over.
is how they kind of treat witches as a race.
That was, but to be fair, that's always been the thing.
I mean,
Well,
fair.
depending
that
on
could-
your canon.
I never really watched
Or your lore.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original. I kind of caught it here and there, but I never watched the whole thing.
Honestly,
like-
fun show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad when I
I
watched
love
it. I'm
Salem.
just saying that, like, I didn't catch it enough to know that,
Sure.
right? You know,
It's all on
And so I'm
Hulu.
like, wait a minute, but you're talking about selling your soul to the devil for all the perks. Can't anybody do that? Like, why do you have to be a race, a magical race?
So when you go into the show a little bit more, they're not selling their soul. What it is, or at least this is how they sell it to people. But essentially, it honestly, they kind of allude that the witches are being tricked into this. But the witches are a separate race, and they're not selling their soul. They're signing a pact with the devil in the devil's book, and it's basically a pre-agreement. The devil already assumes that all witches will sign this book, and they even say that when they go to hell, they're set aside. They are not in the eternal hellfire and torture
Yeah.
that everybody else is. The witches get to go over there, where that's not happening. Where if a mortal were to sell their soul, the mortal would sell their soul on earth and then go to hellfire and death.
Yeah,
the witches
so-
don't do that.
they even have a different limbo and
Yes.
things like that.
That's very
Yeah.
weird to me.
Where I'm at, they actually just Sabrina just asked at one point where mortals go when they die, and the witches are like, we don't know. We know
Yeah.
where we go when we die. We have no idea what happens to mortals.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I'm also past that episode. But so a couple of things to mention. I like the show.
Yeah, it's good.
It is obviously much darker
I
than
didn't
the
hate it.
original. Would you didn't hate it? That's fair. That's almost a glowing review. So I really have to completely separate it from the was it Melissa Joan Hart?
Yes.
Because that was whimsical, that was comedy, that was a teenage drama kind of thing, right? Like it was good. I just can't compare this. This is a more of a thriller horror, I would say, but I do think the whole thing's kind of wrapped in a dark comedy aspect. At first, I was a little hesitant because there were some of the social cultural themes, but they've done a really good job as using them as small plot devices, like motivations, but not really like completely just owning the whole show like the Charmed show did. I know I talked about it last week, so I really like that. I like the fact that they're trying to use more real world situations and doing a lot less of the a lot of times that duality that they do with magic users, where it's completely unrealistic situations and all the shenanigans they get themselves into because of this magic world. In this one, it's more like there's everyday issues that this girl's trying to solve with magic. And the magic isn't even like crazy overt either. It's just kind of subversive. Yeah, things happen, but they don't happen instantly. There's rituals.
There is less magic in this than was in the comedy one by a lot.
A lot.
By a lot.
Like no instant. I think my biggest criticism here is the aunts
are very different characters.
Well, not only that, but the aunt Zelda, the older one, she doesn't make any fucking sense. Like there's the duality there as well that they're trying to portray, where she really loves her niece, but she also really loves the Dark Lord, and she can't seem to quite marry those two together. And then there's this relationship that they're trying to play with her other sister. Again, that character just seems like she was made to be the antagonist for the sake of being the antagonist at times.
I
like
can.
She's the religious aunt, right?
Exactly. Even though it's Satanism and it's all about quote unquote evil, which keep in mind they say evil, but they don't really mean it as such with the way they use it. She's drawing a hard line that I see a lot of my friends' parents draw. Again, I have a lot of Satanist friends, atheist friends, pagan friends, all kinds of non-traditional religions. And the more religious their parents are, the more a lot of them hit that hard note of like, I want my kid to be a part of this thing that I'm a part of, but they don't want to, and so I'm stuck between wanting to love them and respect them, but seeing them do all these things I don't want them to do. To me, it actually comes off as very realistic.
Yeah, however, though, again, I feel like it's taken a little bit too much, especially in specific situations where Sabrina's life is in danger. Like, obviously, I don't want to spoil too much because it's a good
there
show.
Are parents who kick their kids out of their houses for coming out gay and gayness not being accepted in their religion. There are parents who have beaten and killed their kids for similar things.
Sure,
this is no different.
No. The issue that I have isn't that she's doing it. It's that the next scene, she'll just be like, oh, you know, I love you. She's my niece, blah, blah, blah. Like the character doesn't make sense. I understand where there would be
she's conflicted. I think it makes sense. I just think she's a very conflicted character.
Well, okay, fair enough.
This is all personal takes. So
you're
not
it's
wrong,
it's still
wrong.
There's the scene with the dream demon as well, that was completely out of character as well. And again, I feel like they're trying to do the duality. I just don't think they're doing as good as a job as I'd like. How about that?
That's fair.
Yeah, but that could be numerous things. It could be the writing. That could just be her acting. It could be
it seems like she does the haughty, like, religious lady really well, though.
So it might be the writing.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. Again, that's what I'm saying.
I actually thought she was one of the best castings too. Like, she looks enough like the original cast member. I was like, I can actually see how you made this jump from one to the other.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm not getting, why the fuck is the sister British? At first I was like, maybe they went to like different schools or something, but then like, no, when we went to school together, you were a dick, and I was like,
no, I think it might.
Yeah, but that could just be a sister of like witchhood.
To be fair, though,
because they go over things like that. This is her. She's of the same bloodline.
Yeah. No.
Well, then there's only one explanation. One went to an orphanage in a French orphanage inside of China, and the other one was raised in France and then brought to California, like in Jean-Claude Van Damme's movie. And that's why they both have these accents.
We reviewed
Clearly,
this
this was
movie
all
a couple
just a
weeks
Jean-Claude
ago.
Van Damme movie.
No,
Yeah.
actually, I noticed that too. But here's what I figured: the cousin also has a British accent.
Oh, he does, and he's black.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand his characterization or where they came from with him, but I don't care. I like the actor. I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah, no, he's killing it.
Yeah. And he's also a gay black British witch, right? Warlock. Anarchist. Yeah. He's all kinds of things wrapped in one, but I think he's doing a great job.
He is.
His whole side plot lines are pretty good. Anyways, what I think it's one of those, you know how you always talk about like the Southern Belle has that particular inflection? I think this is a New England inflection. You know what I'm talking, not necessarily New England, but like that really haughtiness where they're stuck in the ways of the original settlers that came over, because they talk a lot about that. I think that's what they're trying to go for.
The aunt isn't doing an accent. She's the girl from Shaun of the Dead. She's British.
But to be fair, though, you're right. The aunt isn't doing an accent, but the older aunt sometimes...
It's just her face. It makes that noise.
The older aunt sometimes does an accent as well. It's just not as pronounced. It comes off as more haughty than hardcore British. The younger aunt, Hilda, totally just totally British. It just doesn't even try sometimes.
Yeah, no, she's just a British lady doing her normal voice.
I will say that Sabrina's friends are probably, I'm gonna say, my least favorite characters.
It seems like they're building them up to be something for later seasons, which I'm cool with. But this is so me, my wife, and my buddy from work, who's also watching the show and is just like a big, sci-fi everything head like we are. I talked to him about a lot of this stuff. All have the same big problem. Harvey sucks.
Yeah.
The guy playing Harvey sucks. The character he was given sucks. There's nothing good about the Harvey character. I'm not liking any part of Harvey.
I will say the original Harvey was also just kind of a throwaway. He was always the ditz dude that was just kind of like, here I am.
At least, he was the blockhead. It was funny and he served a purpose. This one is just kind of a whiny douche. And I'm sorry, but the kid playing him, it's just not working for me. I don't think it's his fault or anything. I just the casting mesh with what he was given isn't helping. What he was given isn't good, and I don't even think he's carrying it out well.
You know what?
Who would you pick for Harvey?
Who would I have picked for Harvey?
Yeah.
A TV show like this is a lot harder for me than a movie with a really established character. There's a lot of young teenage actors who I think probably could do an okay job, and I think you probably could have found an unknown who would have done an okay job. Just this kid is not working.
And is it just me?
Mine would have been Morgan Freeman.
Does he have...
Ooh, sold.
Yeah, definitely that one. Is it just me, or does he have a little bit of old face?
Oh, maybe. He looks like a kid I went to high school with. So that's...
Fair enough. He looks like Nintendo.
So my other like big down. So like I always do, I like the show, but I'm only going to talk about the negative parts because that's what I...
seriously. Okay, let me just put that out there. Watch the show. It's good.
Yes, watch the show. The show is good. I hate Riverdale. This is better. Watch this. This is much better. I like this. But the other big down note for me, you couldn't make Salem talk a little bit more? Salem talks one time.
Apparently they're gonna add that in slowly, and it's gonna be a plot thing, is what they've hinted at. But no, he needs to be witty. He needs to be...
No, I don't, because they've kind of filled like the witty, charming house arrest guy with the cousin. I feel like the cousin is the new Salem, and I'm fine with that. So in this, I don't know if you... Did they do Salem in the first episode, Klops?
Yeah.
Okay, so... In this, familiars are basically like goblins or lesser kind of demons who bind themselves to witches as kind of like a mutually beneficial thing. They protect the witch protects them. It's helpful all around. So when she first meets it, her aunt's like, no, go to this service or whatever it is and get like a purebred familiar kind of thing. It's a demon who has a reputation and has been around and he'll be good for you. And she's like, nah, I kind of want to just put out a call and just get my own like wild ass demon. So this thing shows up and it's like, paraphrase him, it's like, you Sabrina? And she's like, yeah. And it's like, fuck yeah, I'm your familiar. Blam, done. And then it's just like, shit, all right. So he's like aggressive and demon-y. And then she even mentions like, yeah, she's talking to somebody later on. She's like, there's literally no lock that can keep him down. He's just the kind of demon, if there's a door, he'll get through it and he'll let me the fuck through. My demon, I don't even want him to be like sassy and witty and shit. If he was just seriously like all evil, like, Sabrina, let's fuck some shit up, I'd be like,
yeah, I kind of... I kind of want that too for him. Like, I want him to be that malicious influence, right? You know,
right? Like, and it doesn't even have to be a lot. Once per episode, have Salem be like, "You want me to murder that?" And she's like, "Nah, it's cool." And he's like, "Cool."
Okay, I will
Fine
say
with it.
the creepiest moment that in the entire series so far was his introduction.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because-
I loved his intro.
Yeah,
his intro was good
because
Like,
you
I
don't
liked it.
see what he really is. You just
Mm-hmm.
see the silhouette and glowing eyes with. Is that a tail? Is that a shadow? What the fuck is that trailing behind him? So I'm kind of hoping that he ends up being like a fucking greater demon. Or something like that. Like, I think that'd be great.
Build it up, it'll get better for me. I just feel like it's a waste because it was already a talking cat in the original.
Yeah. I feel like
Just
he
give
should
him some lines.
I feel like he should definitely talk more. I do want him to be at maybe not like witty, like comedy witty, but maybe like Alfred kind of witty, you know, like haughty witty, like
You're riding the hottie card today.
Yeah, if you do it right, it's kind of fun. But anyways, it's a good show. Check it out.
It's worth your time.
I would give it probably 6 witches slit throats out of 7.
Yeah, I'd probably go like 7.5. Make the cat talk more out of 10.
I'd
Make the
give
cat talk
it
more.
It's okay. I didn't hate it.
I would watch a little
I
bit
hate
more,
things.
Klops. Like it does build very well, and you start to give a shit a little bit more about things as it builds. Plus, it's kind of it's one of those shows that we're just kind of like leaving on and playing games on our phone or me playing
Yeah.
up Twitch. Like it's great background because it also has like the shitty enough dialogue where if there's action and you're not paying attention, the minute the action's done, they'll go like, "This is what just happened," and you can go, "Thanks, Sabrina," and you can keep doing what you're doing without looking up from your screen. So it fits a nice niche.
Also, I'd totally be okay with all her friends getting killed off. I don't zero.
But
fucks
I mean,
given.
I already have a background kind of thing that I've been watching, and that's Star Wars Rebels.
Segueing.
I see what you did, you
Segueing.
piece of shit. Sorry, go on.
So anyway, for those of you that don't know Star Wars Rebels, it's a cartoon that came out in at Disney after the Clone Wars, and it's done by the same crew.
Wait, what are you watching it on? Because if it's somewhere streaming, I haven't seen it yet.
It's a website where I get all my stuff free.
Never mind. Go ahead.
So it's done in a 3-dimensional kind of cartoon character design.
It looks a lot like Clone Wars. From what I've seen, it looks a lot like Clone Wars.
Overall, I really am not a big fan of a lot of 3D things like that, but this one, it actually works pretty well with. And for those of you that don't know what the Clone Wars was, it was a series that ran between the episode 2 and 3 about the Clone Wars from Star Wars. If you don't know what that is, I'm sorry, you have to go with it. Which revolved around Anakin Skywalker getting an apprentice and not wanting to have an apprentice and coming to terms and growing with it, and as well as his transition into Lord Vader. So if you thought that 3 was a little bit more abrupt with him going, "I'm evil now," which is understandable.
So it's basically
watch
the in between
Clone
2
Wars
and
a little
3.
So Star Wars Rebels takes place between 3 and 4. Episode Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And revolves around a kind of, I think he's like 15 or 16-year-old named Ezra. And Ezra is a street urchin. He's lost his parents because of the Empire and has nowhere else to go. And within the first couple minutes, he notices these people doing something, right? And there's Imperials in the area, and they have a bunch of crates, and naturally, these people are going to rip off the Empire, and he decides to jump in it, and he grabs a speeder bike with a crate on it and darts off as well. So now he has the Empire after him, as well as these rebels, for unknown reasons, because he doesn't know who they are, trying to get the shipment back because they need it for whatever job they're pulling, right? Because they're scoundrels. Flash forward a little bit later, an Empire TIE fighter comes by, blows up his speeder bike, and now he's stuck. But before Empire can grab him, the rebels are there to grab him, and he brings the crate along with him. And it turns out that it was a job that had food and weapons for a kind of refugee camp on this planet that they're on, which I can't remember the name of it, in order to kind of try to negate the Empire a little more and try to build up the rebellion, quote unquote. But there's no real rebellion. There's no talk of the real rebellion. They're just trying to arm people so that the Empire just can't roll through and take everything like they have been. So this is where you meet the rest of the crew. There's I think there's like 5 or 6 of them. There's, but he's like,
are we talking like, was it Chris Kattan?
It's Kan.
Kyle, I think.
No, it's not Kyle. Kyle is
It's
further
not
in the series.
Kyle Katarn. Okay.
It's just Catan Jarrus, which
Oh.
he's the ship captain, and kind of like this like scoundrel character with kind of this air of mystery about him. Then we have Hera, who is the ship pilot, a Twi'lek, and the love interest of Charon. Like it's his girlfriend. And they blatantly mention that for a moment, but then just kind of glance over and keep going. Next, they have Sabrina Warren, who is one of my favorite characters, but it's more on the premise. They haven't actually done a lot with her in the like 8 or 9 episodes that I've watched. She's a like punk anarchist Mandalorian.
That's dope as fuck.
Oh,
Like she's in pink Mandalorian armor and like has a jetpack and shit and like just fucks everything up. She's their explosive expert. Then there's Zeb, who Zeb is like this alien creature. What's his name? What is it? I can't remember the name of the species, but he's like this giant purple creature, and he's like the hot-headed muscle of the group. And his big beef is that the Empire rolled through and basically annihilated almost all of his people with disruptors. Which, if you don't know what disruptors are, it's basically like firing a tank cannon at a box full of soft kittens. It just obliterates flesh material. And then last is my favorite character. It's Chomper, and Chomper is a rusty R6 unit. And he's got an attitude. Now, he doesn't actually have any real dialogue.
Yeah,
he's an
Batitude.
Yeah, Batitude. But they gave him like these little hands that come out of his like neck. So like he'll like use them to like talk and stuff while he's doing stuff. And he's just a foul mouth shit talker the whole time.
But
and
in sign language?
Well, he does a little bleeps and bloops, right? And like the other characters react and they say things, right? So you can get what he's saying.
Fair
and
enough.
he uses his arms and stuff. And he also has like the little shocker thing like R2 did. So he'll fuck with people as well. So anyway, they get these weapons and stuff, and they're going to go do this. And their whole reason for doing this is because not only are they getting paid to do it, but they're going to get information about these Wookiees that are being transported so they can rescue them. And they're Wookiees that have specifically were part of the Clone Wars and rose up against the Empire after Order 66. Turns out information was bad. It's a trap. But Ezra, through his very mischievous ways of being like a rogue street urchin, finds out where the Wookiees actually are and starts showing Force sensitivity.
Bum, bum, bum.
And he gets called into the
Force
captain quarters, right? Like he just like follows the Force into it, where he finds a lightsaber and a Jedi holocron. And he steals a holocron.
So holocrons are canon again.
Holocrons are canon again, because this is canon. This is actual canon for the series. And he kind of stuffs the holocron away in a pocket or something, and he gets caught with the lightsaber by Charon, who's a Jedi master. And he gets back the lightsaber from him, and he basically yells at him and tells him to go the fuck away, and then quietly turns to Hera and says, "And now we wait and see." Because only Force users can open holocrons. Right. And sure enough, he was able to open the holocron, having a message from Obi-Wan basically telling the remaining Jedi not to return to the temple, that to stay in hiding until there's a new hope. So there's all these things that are playing into the show that I really love, because it's not only taking from the movies and stuff and playing on those kind of like references, but it still has that like feel of the original Star Wars. You have this like mischievous crew that's like a bunch of misfits that are doing stuff in this like fantastical setting against these big baddies. And even the big baddies aren't as bland as they are in the new movies. They have personality. They say things. They kind of can be snarky when it comes to like the rebels and stuff, but they quiet up whenever an officer walks by, right? Prime example is in the first episode. Ezra jumps over the trooper, knocks him off, so he flies down this like big open void, right? You know, he's presumably dead, to save this child Wookiee, and the officer that's assigned to hunt these rebels shows up, and the master throws him off before he can get Ezra. So they escape, But instead of it panning to what they're doing, it pans down to this like thing that's underneath the platform, and there's the officer holding on to this like pillar, and there's the stormtrooper holding on below him, and he turns and he goes, "First time seeing a Jedi, sir?" And the dude just kicks him off. Right? So they have personality, which is what I really enjoy. Like, it's not just beep boop Nazis, because that's pretty much what they are. It's people. And the whole series is like that. Every little side character that you meet, all the people that they interact with, it's a world. It's not just a set.
Well, Clone Wars was like that too. I like that the clones had personalities.
Yeah, I love that about them. But I think that this one's a little bit more scoundrelish and less esoteric, whereas Clone Wars is very much esoteric in the fact of like the ways of the Force and stuff, right? You know, it's getting to that. There's a little bit of that happening in this, but it's not as heavy because it's not focused on the Jedi Order and Ahsoka and Anakin going through as the Force wielders, right? It's a mischievous crew that happens to have a Jedi and happens to have a Force sensitive.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to try this, but it was on a network that I didn't have. I believe it's on Netflix now? Or is it still behind a paywall?
I think it's still behind a paywall. I have other means. Don't judge me.
I got it.
Oh, well, that's... So, I was gonna say, I had heard a rumor... Well, part of the rumor is confirmed and the other part was not, at least to my knowledge. So, the cast, or the ship, Ghost, from Star Wars Rebels, shows up in Rogue One at the Battle of Scarif. You can actually see the ship, and it is confirmed. That's them. They were there.
Oh, cool.
The crew of Rebels shows up and fight. They don't ever show more than that they were there and they fought in it, but you never see what happens to the ship. And the rumor was that's where they fell. Like, the show ends, and then they go to Scarif, and they all die on Scarif. Star Wars has come out and said, nope, that's not what happens. In fact, one of the characters is going to get like a mini movie about her, Leia, and Solo doing some work on Endor post all that shit.
Well, that might be Sabrina.
I believe it was the Twi'lek.
Oh no, that's Hera.
Hera, that's it. Yeah. So Hera is going to go run around with Han and Leia, and I don't know if that's out yet because again, I'm not following any of this stuff because I don't have a place to watch it.
I'm still in the first.
They do not die in Rogue One, which is good because I was always like, that's a real dark way to end the fucking show.
Well,
speaking of endings, we are coming right up on it. Klops, put a bow on this.
I will give Jedi's Rebels a 9. Did you see that? This is the first time you saw a Jedi, sir, out of 10. Did you just see a Jedi, sir?
And he got killed for it. I'm just gonna put that out there.
He did die.
he did.
Yeah.
I say he did. All right, so play us out, Klops.
You can find us on our Twitch stream sometimes on Tuesdays at twitch.metagame/network. And then you can also find us on our website and on Podbean and on iTunes.
That was almost perfect. Last words, Bonsai.
We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but everybody crushed Eduardo in FML. League champ right here. Blam, 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 blam.
I like that he's calling league champ. We'll see. It's not
league champ.
Yet.
League champ. Number 1.
Steve Holt.
Chuck Testa.
All right, and on that note, bye.
See ya.